shoulder joint, you have the shoulder blade here. It's kind of like a saucer, right? And then you have your arm bone, which just butts up against it. So there's no bony support, unlike the hip, which forms a socket around the bone there to give you a lot of stability. Your shoulder is very unstable. You take away all the muscles, the bones just fall apart from each other. Well, I guess you can say that for the elbow and stuff as well. But you have four major muscles that wrap around the head of the humerus. And what happens when it gets tight, it sucks it into the joint. And when that bone goes to move, it should also slide. Okay, so you get the roll and glide. What's happened with frozen shoulders is that you get this roll, but there's no glide, and it gets stuck, and the muscle around it just spasms up, right? So the most important thing for us to do is trying to encourage that joint to move. And if you have a chair or something to hold your arm, so that you keep that arm stable, now you just let your body weight pull away from it. And essentially the weight of the body is just going to try and traction that arm out of the socket, okay? And if you feel a lot of tightness and a lot of achiness, that's because there's a lot of fibrous tissue that's all bound up. And the neck muscles here can also get really tight, okay? And then that'll lock up the collarbone and the first rib here as they come down, and this whole complex gets really stiff. So it's important for all of that to really stay loose. And in terms of stretching it more, you can use the door frame. Let's just say the door frame's here. You can just even use a wall here to slowly turn yourself away from it to pull that shoulder back. Right? Stretch out some of this tightness here. I work on my hands a lot, so when it tightens up, it's like a sleeve. The whole thing tightens. So when I do pull my fingers back, you may feel everything in that arm complex goes numb. That's because when I'm pulling it like this, I'm tightening up all the tissue, and this starts to restrict around the nerves, and the nerve is going to fall asleep. That's why it gets all dull and achy. If you pull it too hard, you'll tear it. Okay, so don't put things under tension around kids who's going to be jumping around, because that sudden jerk can cause a tear, especially when you're taking it to threshold. So it's like taking a cloth that you want to stretch, this shirt here. If I'm pulling on it, if I pull it too hard, I rip the fiber. But if I gently pull on it and hold it like that, eventually the tension is going to make the knit of the fibers reshape itself. And that's what you want to do with this. You want to stretch it out and reshape the fibrous tissue here. You want to pull and create more space in the muscle tissue so there's more blood infiltrating it. Okay. Another thing to do is to slowly try and walk your arm up the wall. Okay, you might, if this is as far as you can go, that's as far as you need to go, or just go as far as your body allows you. And then you can slowly lower yourself to create that stretch, right? Instead of pushing the arm up, you place it where it is, and you use your leg to lower to try and create more stretch. Okay, and then just a lot of flowing motions like this to try and create that fluidity and the mobility in that joint. Sometimes if the joint here gets stiff, you roll your finger around it, feel where the grooves are, and just press your finger in there and then roll it, right? Because then the shoulder, the finger will slowly edge in a little bit to create more space for you. And if it's a little tender, you could rub it. It's tender because the tissue has strained and teared a little bit. All right. If we use our muscles a lot, just like a rope, over time it's going to fray and break, right? So a lot of the tendons in here. So being at a desk, being on a mountain bike, when you're stabilizing all that, you condition the muscle to be tight. You're just jostling them and trying to relax them. So with these stretches, having said that, if you are on your bike for several hours or at a desk for 8 hours a day, that's a lot of conditioning for the tightness. So when you hold this and try to stretch it, how long do you hold this until your muscles learn to let go? So that's different for everybody. It's just depending on what your habits are, right? So the stretching here, grabbing a foundation around a seat and then tilting your body away from it. You can change your neck position a little bit, just to loosen up the neck around the shoulder. Putting your shoulder up against the door frame and then slowly pull back this way to stretch out the front. I'm going to switch places with you. You can stand over here. Okay. So if I grab the door jamb this way, now I'm sliding back. So I'm tractioning my arm out in front of you, just trying to create that roundedness in your shoulder, and then tilting your shoulder away this way. I'll stretch more the back of your shoulder complex now, right? So again, putting your arm up high on the door frame, just walking forward, allowing that shoulder complex to go back and stretching out this. Putting your arm up high and lowering yourself to stretch out the lats. Okay, you can pause that. So once you're ready to support, if not, you can hang on to a rope or something up high. Okay, so if you can't reach as high, just get up higher. This thing doesn't stretch. So just up here, and just slowly lower your body to stretch out that arm, because now you're loosening up your lats. The weight of your body's tractioning your shoulder, your arm out of the socket, right? And then I mentioned that butterfly pull-up. It's just reaching forward and allowing yourself to arch. And forward and hard. Okay? Just creating this rhythm here. You can rock it forward and back of your leg. And then let's just create that fluidity through the body.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay? And if your arm is stable enough that you can support your weight, you start going into the butterfly position like this. You just trying to jostle and wiggle the shoulder loose, right? And then that will also help to loosen up the back a bit. All right.
Okay.
Any questions?